Welcome back, and we are discussing common reasons why churches and pastors decide they do not want to get involved in maybe an election or even an issue that's being discussed. And the first two we talked about were first the fact that Christians want to avoid being divisive. We talked about why that can be a trap, though in large part too, we understand the gospel is divisive. The second reason we covered is the threat to our tax-exempt status and the fact that churches just don't want to get into trouble with the IRS, and frankly, we don't want you to, but we covered why that's not really a concern. The third really common argument I want to cover for why churches don't engage is because they say it's wrong to legislate morality. Now, you've almost certainly heard this argument. It's likely that you've said this in some kind of context, and frankly, this is an argument you hear more often made in the church than outside of it. But the idea is that Christians can feel virtuous when they say that they don't want to use the law to force people to be Christians. And of course, that's true. We understand that the gospel is something that happens from the inside out. Though many monarchs and kings in history have Christianized their nation, they of course didn't make anyone become Christian. They just created a Christian culture and Christian expectations, and sometimes they told people you have to go to Christian churches, and if you don't go to Christian churches, that you are violating the law, not simply God's law. Those things are not effective ways of evangelism, we understand, because unless your heart is actually submitted to Jesus, you are not a Christian, and the law cannot make someone's heart submit to Jesus. So this idea that you can't legislate morality really has a lot to do with how you define that term morality. What do we mean by that? So we recognize that it's true that you can't make people be good, or you can't make people desire good through the law, but there is the ability to influence whether people do good through the law. I'll give you a couple quick examples. If abortion is illegal, fewer people get abortion. That means more people live. That, of course, is unambiguously good. Even if people want abortion, if they don't have the ability to get abortion, and children are born and given a chance at life because of that law, that is, of course, a good thing that happens from the law. So, as a result of that, moral goodness is achieved because the law happened. Another example that, frankly, is going to become more commonly debated in the months and years to come is age verification laws for pornography. Now, we understand that pornography is a scourge upon our culture and our nation and our churches and our families. And what is happening in a number of states is that they're saying, well, we are going to require age verification before anyone can access pornography. Now, of course, we don't incentivize or encourage adults to access pornography, but specifically prohibiting minors from doing so not only makes it hard for minors to access pornography. The data shows that most adults do not want their porn habits connected to their driver's licenses. So these kind of laws have a huge impact on adult behavior as well. And this, of course, is a good thing. Even if you want to access pornography, the inability to access pornography, which the law can provide, is a moral good. So there are senses in which the law can accomplish moral good ends even without changing people's hearts. And we as believers, of course, we want goodness to happen. Now, what we don't want to do is coerce people through the force of the law to share our theology. But the biggest point we need to understand here is that anytime someone says we shouldn't legislate morality, they don't mean it. No one means that. And here's the reason why. All law is fundamentally moral. Every law, whether it's recycling laws or tax codes or zoning laws, all of them are making a statement that some things are desirable, some things are undesirable, some things are good, some things are not good. Those are fundamentally moral claims. A speed limit is effectively a legislation of morality because it's saying life should be protected, and if you drive 90 miles an hour down a residential street, you are going to create a risk to human life, which is bad. That's a moral statement. Therefore, we're not going to allow you to do that. The reality is, and this is what we all need to internalize, is it is impossible not to legislate morality. So anytime someone comes to you and says, hey, you narrow-minded Christian just trying to make everyone be like you, stop legislating morality. In 100% of those situations, they want you to stop legislating morality so that they can legislate their morality instead. regardless of your position on any of the most controversial issues, marriage, abortion, gender, all of these things. Both sides are making moral claims about what is good and right, what is wrong, what should be encouraged and what should not be encouraged. The real question is not should morality be legislated. The real question is whose morality should be legislated. And for Christians, that should be in a simple answer. We want morality to be culturally embraced, if not theologically accepted. We want it to be embraced that honors the created order that God has revealed to us. We know what leads to human flourishing because God told us that. We know that marriage and fidelity and sacrifice and honesty and honor and delayed gratification and self-control, all of those things are what lead to human flourishing. And even if you don't confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, a family, a community, and a nation that lives as if those things are true will flourish. And that's part of the reason why you look at a culture like Japan, hardly a Christian society, but there's an honor. There's a social values of honor and respect and loyalty and discipline and honesty and all of those things that allow it to flourish in ways that a society and a culture that doesn't honor those things will not. So, summarize. Should we legislate morality? Well, the fact is it's unavoidable to legislate morality. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. The other side shouldn't pretend like they're ashamed of it. We need to recognize what is actually happening in these debates and answer the real question: whose morality will be legislated? And for Christians, we say, whose morality should be legislated? The morality that God has revealed to us that will actually benefit our neighbors and families and friends and communities and nations, not the kind of morality that will destroy it. We're on God's side every single time, all the time. That's why you just can't help legislating morality.